The Jimny and the Thar are an obvious pairing. But if you look a little closer, this is the Thar Roxx. 4 doors, comfy on the inside. It's actually moving away from the Jimny because it's being aimed squarely at this. And there's a big gap between the Creta and the Jimny, a true blue body-on-frame SUV. Where does the Thar fit in that gap is what we're going to find out today with our ride, performance and handling tests. Let's get straight to it. So starting things off as we usually do with a cornering test, and the first car we're going to look at is the Jimny. Now the Jimny is an old school SUV. It's a body-on-frame SUV, rear wheel driven, and also has quite a slow steering rack, which is great off-road, but in cornering at 60 kmph, well, it manages to keep things stable, but you are turning in a lot of steering lock to get it through that corner. At 65 kmph, well, it doesn't manage to miss those cones, knocks both the first and the second cone down, and so the Jimny taps out at 65 kmph with 2 cones knocked over. Moving on to the Thar Roxx, a slightly longer wheelbase, 4 doors, and this is the 2x4 version, and at 60 kmph, well, that was quite stable. So we'll step things up then to 65 kmph. And at 65 kmph, well, the Thar can't hold that tight line. It does knock over that first cone and just about brushes the second cone. But to see which one is better, we are going to have to do a freeze frame for that.
So as you can see, even with the freeze frame, it's very hard to pick a winner from the footage. But if I had to pick one, then the Thar Roxx felt and looked the most stable of the two. And just for comparison, here is a side-by-side of the Thar Roxx versus itself, basically against the 2-door Thar, and this is how the Roxx differs. A slightly longer wheelbase seems to make it more stable through the corner, and it also holds a tighter line.
And then moving on to the target SUV that the Thar is aiming for, the Hyundai Creta segment. And we have the Creta at 65 kmph. It easily clears those 2 cones. Keep in mind, we have the 1.5 CVT automatic version of the Creta. Moving things up then to 70 kmph, and like before, the Creta still manages to hold a fairly tight line, but it still can't miss that first cone, easily winning the cornering test.
The acceleration test here is quite the mismatch. The Thar is a powerful diesel, the Creta is a light crossover, and the Jimny is, well, frankly, a little underwhelming on tarmac. But here are the numbers of an acceleration test anyways. The Thar Roxx is over 2 seconds quicker than the CVT Creta. However, the turbo petrol Creta is quicker than the Thar. The Jimny AT is the slowest at just over 15 seconds to 100 km per hour. The Creta shows its better dynamics in its braking department, stopping in an assuring 38.12 meters. The Roxx is heavier and so manages to come to a stop utilizing just over 40 meters. And despite the Jimny being lighter than the Thar, it takes almost 42.5 meters to come to a stop. In the rough road tests, the Jimny closely edged out the Thar in its ability to save water. The Creta, on the other hand, was easily the better water transporter of these 3 cars. The Thar Roxx is better at insulating inside occupants than the 2-door car, but in this company, it's the least comfortable. The Jimny uses the same body-on-frame construction as the Thar Roxx, but still manages to be more comfortable on tarmac. There is noticeably less side-to-side motion in the cabin over broken roads, and your passengers in the second row will complain a lot less than in the Thar Roxx. In the real world, the Thar has made a big step up in terms of its ride quality, but maybe not enough. It's still nowhere as comfortable as more road-focused SUVs can be, and it's only really acceptable on smooth, flat tarmac. As soon as imperfections like bumps, undulations, and small potholes enter the picture, it can get quite uncomfortable, and you will need to slow down your progress. The Creta is one of the best riding cars in the segment, and the Roxx was never coming close. But even its other crossover stablemates sit head and shoulders above the Roxx when it comes to living with them in Indian conditions with potholes, speed breakers, and broken roads. So finally, in terms of this test, the Creta is still a few car lengths ahead of the Thar Roxx in most aspects, and the Roxx hasn't left the Jimny too far behind either. This is the results table, but there honestly isn't a need to declare a winner or a loser here. This test was more of a way to depict where the Thar Roxx sits in the grand scheme of things. What we will say is that if the Thar Roxx was on your radar and you were considering it, then definitely take a test drive and see just how it stacks up against your local road conditions. There's no denying its presence, more plush interior experience, and overall appeal. But the ride quality is still a compromise that not all in the family may be willing to make. There are, of course, more finer points to this buying decision too, all of which we've covered on our car deco comparison of the Thar alongside the Jimny and the Creta, comparing all of its features and practicality in fine detail. Our thanks if you reached this far in the video, and please subscribe, share, and like the video if you found value in it. Also, do let us know if the Roxx is on your shortlist and if this style of content helped you in any way, or if it was or wasn't just good entertainment.